Peace. This is Wise for Wise Words Media. And man, my main man, the greatest rapper of all time, does it again. Nasty Nas just dropped King's Disease 3. And what an album. I mean, I'm listening to it, and halfway through I'm like, is this one of Nas's greatest albums? So I had to ask myself, is this a top 5 Nas album? So on Top 5 Tuesday, I gotta officially declare this. Let's go through Nas's top 5 albums. And yes, we're gonna begin at number 5. And it is King's Disease. King's Disease is one of Nas's finest works, and it's amazing. What makes it even greater is just the backstory. The fact that this comes 30 years into his career. He's 49 years old. 49. Dropping some of the greatest lyrics in his entire catalog, in his whole history of being a rapper. He's dropping some of the dopest lyrics. That joint, Done, the Queen's joint, yo, KRS may have won the battle with The Bridge Is Over, but Queens and Nas and Queens Bridge, they won the war. When Nas just flipped that line, the Bronx keeps creating it, Manhattan keeps on making it, Brooklyn keeps on taking it, and Queens keeps caking it. Queens officially won the war when he took that line and flipped it on him. I mean, joints like where he was like, yo man, listening to verses on tape, he said listening to Takeover, Tex and Hove, laughing like, yo, this ain't over yet. Like, the growth on this album, the level of self-expression, to be able to be 49 years old and make a relatable album. Like he said on the album, I got people from all generations, people that are 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, teenagers, all listening to Nas. Yo, what he's been able to do, reaching this fountain of youth with the assistance of Hit Boy, has been remarkable. This has been one of the greatest stories in hip-hop history. And with joints like 30 and Done and countless others on this album, there's no question about it. This is Nas's one of his finest works, and definitely cemented as a top 5 Nas album of all time. Number 4. Well, number 4 is a very interesting album because some people are gonna say it's not an album. But I'm going to beg to differ and tell you, yes, this is an official album, and that is the Lost Tapes. Lost Tapes was geniusly put out by Nas and Columbia because at that time, Nas was hot. He just won the battle against JayZ, and after beating JayZ, they wanted to keep the momentum going. So they dropped Stillmatic. Stillmatic goes platinum, critically acclaimed. So they're like, yo, let's keep the momentum going even further. So the genius that Nas is, he takes a bunch of B-side records, bunch of joints that were white labels and things that never made an album for whatever reason, whether he didn't want to put it on an album or whether, you know, A&Rs didn't feel it would fit the flow of an album or whatever it would be. Maybe he thought certain joints like Fetus would go over people's heads and wouldn't fit on an album. Fetus is one of the most genius songs. See, Nas always makes this genius creative song on every album. He leaves his mark with this genius creative song on every album that never been done before. So like a joint like on Stillmatic, he's writing to his man he's writing a letter to his man in jail. You know, creativity, never been done. On It Was Written, he got I Gave You Power, where he personifies himself as a gun. You know, he rhymes as if he was a gun. He got on the third album, I Am, he got Money Is My Itch, where he's rhyming that money is a woman. You know, he's personifying money as his woman. So he brings that level of genius. My Book of Rhymes, where he makes a whole song of him just reading off his rhymes, and he sees a girl's number. For, you know, whoever used to write rhymes back in the day with the pen and paper, if you had like a composition notebook, you would put a, you know, you put a female's number or whatever, or phone numbers, period, inside your notebook. And he was like, oh, I remember this chick. So, yo, stuff like that, genius level. But on Lost Tapes, he had one called Belly Button Window, or Fetus, where he's rhyming from the moment he's conceived, from conception, and how he's growing inside the womb, and what his surroundings is like in the womb and outside the womb. Like, what's his environment like? What's he taking in and experiencing? So it was one of the most genius songs of his catalog. And I gotta say, with joints like that, with Black Zombies, with what's the joint? I Did It My Way. Oof, Did It My Way is a banger. Gotta Love It. Ooh, with AZ on the hook, gotta love it. Like that joint. Oh, well, not on the hook. AZ, they borrowed AZ's voice on the intro. And man, Gotta Love It is so ill, man. Like, and man, Do-Rags. How you start an album with Do-Rags? Like, that song is so smooth, so ill. So yeah, Nas, being the genius he is, he took a bunch of these songs, compiled it, and it was honored by Columbia as one of his albums to fulfill his contract. So it is an official album. It's not just a mixtape or whatever. It's a mixtape style album. So that will be number 4 on my list. Number 3, I'm gonna go with It Was Written. It Was Written was a genius album, dope album, because, you know, some people didn't like it because they wanted him to be more street, you know, like they wanted it to be reminiscent of Stillmatic. But Nas showed growth on that album. You know, Nas is successful now. He's seeing different things in life now. He's being exposed to different places and different experiences. And being the artist that he is, he jotted that down. And he also kept it very street on that album with songs like Shootout, with songs like Live Nigga Rap with Mobb Deep. Live Nigga Rap with Mobb Deep, you know, some are not aware, but Prodigy's verse on that joint, hey yo, NYC, you and I verse severely, Havoc and P, Queen's supposed to be. So he's like, Mega, got word back from Noriega. He said JFK on our way to LA. Big gags down to Santa Barbara. So that verse was P going at the West Coast. That was supposed to be his verse on LA, going clapping back at the West Coast. But last minute he wanted his verse taken out, until just so happens the day that they shooting the video for LA, Hit 'Em Up comes out the same exact day, and Tupac says the whole "don't one of y'all got sickle cell" and gets at P, and then P was like, all right, I want to make my mark on this song, so he jumps on the hook, gets on the video. But you know, he had plenty of street bangers on that. The Firm, got the Firm joint. The Firm joint had the streets buzzing, and everybody was anticipating a Firm album after that and was hyped for it to come out. So Nas had a bunch of street bangers on that. But you know, there was growth. There was songs like Black Girl Lost, you know, talking about the hardships that black women go through in society. Like he had some bangers. You know, he was more grown on that album. You know, If I Ruled the World made that album a platinum bound album because that was a smash single with Lauryn Hill. So he had some joints on there that can appease everyone. streets, non-streets, commercial. So on every level, I think he nailed it on that album. It was a good follow-up. Number 2, I'm going to go with Stillmatic. Stillmatic, you got to think about what was going on around that time, right? Nas is losing his mother. So he's taking the biggest loss of his life at this time. His heart's not really into making music. And around that time, when he's going through all that personal stuff, here come JayZ and Memphis Bleak, and now they getting at Nas. And they bringing up all sorts of personal stuff and taking subliminal shots at him. So, man, they woke up a sleeping giant, man. They woke up the monster, man. You don't poke the bear. You don't do that. And what ends up happening is Nas gets inspired and drops one of the greatest albums in hip-hop history, which is Stillmatic. He's still letting you know this is Illmatic, man. This is Stillmatic. I ain't go nowhere yet. Don't think because you don't see me in the limelight, don't think I ain't here. I'm still here. So he starts the album. That Stillmatic intro. Woo! Oh man, Food from C-Town, Mornings with Hash Browns. He said, eyes glued to the tube. Around the same age I was on my album cover. He said, man, that joint, blood of a slave, heart of a king. That intro just let you know, oh, you about to witness something now. We about to witness history. Just hearing that intro, you knew the album was gonna be fire. And right after that, you get dum doom doom doom. Up JayZ. What's up? Yo. I will not lose. Ether comes out. I know you ain't talking. You been on my. You love my style. I just so like Ether will. Nah. And he assassinates JayZ on that joint. And he said on that joint, oh, I don't even want to go in. You know what Ether's about. I love Nas and Jay. You know what I'm saying? Nas and $500,000 are my 2 favorite rappers of all time, and Prodigy. Those are my 3 favorites. But JayZ is in my top 10 of all time also. So I love both of them. But yeah, Nas did his thing on that one. JayZ knows. JayZ's on record saying Nas won. But yeah, you got that joint. You got You're the Man. You're the Man. Wow, classic. And Primo never disappoints. When Primo and Nas get together, this is why I get mad. When Nas and JayZ don't make enough songs with Primo, they don't make music with Primo no more. The Primo-Nas combination, you're the man. Then on Second Childhood, in your Second Childhood, the concept on that, Rewind, Destroy and Rebuild, man, Nas got too many bangers. That album is just one of those where you can just press play and hear banger after banger. My Country. Oh man, so yeah, that album, there's creativity on so many levels, and is a resurgence. It's the reemergence of Nas, man, solidifying his spot as the greatest of all time. And number 1, you know it, I know it, the hip-hop world knows it, Illmatic. Illmatic is the crown jewel of hip-hop, right? The crown jewel. There's a crown that a king wears, and that jewel that shines on the king's crown, that is what Nas Illmatic is. It's the crown jewel of hip-hop. This is 9 songs, 10 tracks. We got an intro, but 9 songs. of the greatest. I mean, you got to think about it. Nas was only like 17 years old when he was writing these things. The album ain't get released till he was like 19, but he was writing this stuff when he was like 17. This is a young kid, a 17-year-old that made this album. I mean, when you start from New York State of Mind, you hear the stuff he's saying on that album. How is this coming from the mind of a 17-year-old? Oh my goodness. Then Premier, the who's who of producers on that album. DJ Premier, Pete Rock, Large Professor, Q-Tip, who's one of the most underrated producers of all time, like LES. Like, he's got a who's who of producers on that album. And we gotta think also, Nas changed the game like that, because before in hip-hop it would be one producer or one DJ that did the whole album. But on Illmatic, that was one of the first albums, if not the first album, that had several different producers compile one album. And that was different in hip-hop at that time. So that was one of the things that adds to the mystique of that album. Also, the lyricism, the song content, man. Whose world is this? Oh man, Nas was the first rapper that I said, I gotta always follow this dude, buy every album. He made me want to buy albums, period. Like, I can't miss an album. Him and Wu-Tang made me want to just buy albums all the time. So, you know, songs like Whose World Is This? Life's Up, when he came out and introduced the world to AZ. What? And AZ comes out and bodies that album, bodies that song. So, you know, you got songs like I alluded to earlier, One Love, where he's writing a letter to his man in jail, man, with the Q-Tip production. Such an ill beat. I mean, Halftime. And then the joint that put me on to Nas was the video, the first single, It Ain't Hard to Tell, with the Michael Jackson sample. Forget it. That Nas is like an Afrocentric Asian, half man, half amazing. What? Sneaker Uzi on the island through my army jacket lining. Yo, nah, man, nah. You rhyming about the Asiatic black man? Rhyming about sneaking Uzis on the island? Come on, son. Like, Nas, man. Move smoother than move from Villanova. You still a soldier. I'm like Sly Stone and Cobra. Packing like a Rasta at the weed spot. Oh, nah. That can't come from the mind of a 17, 18-year-old. They can't. How's that possible, man? That's why he's the king of kings, the king from Queens. Nas, the greatest of all time. And there you have it. Top 5 Nas albums ever. King's Disease, number 5. King's Disease, number 5. Number 4, Lost Tapes. Number 3, It Was Written. Number 2, Stillmatic. Number 1, Illmatic. And that's my top 5. What's your top 5 Nas albums of all time? Do you think that's an accurate list? What do you think? Drop a comment, hit the like, subscribe. See you next Tuesday for a top 5. Peace.